almost like $80 for taxi to the hotel. We're like, what? I was checking constantly online if new spots open up. Sometimes it's actually worth it to pay a little extra, but to get flight that is more convenient, I go to pick up the car and they were like, no, you can't take the car. You probably don't travel around, and trust me, I made every mistake in the books. And here are my top 10 travel mistakes that cost me money, stress, and even friendships, and how you can avoid them. So, welcome to Honest Trip. My name is Olga, and I've been traveling since 2011 or 10, and I'm not doing it full time, but I've traveled enough to make all of those travel mistakes that I want to share with you today. And first one would be the worst, at least in my opinion. So mistake number 10, overpacking for your trips. You just imagine you pack 3 bags of clothes, cosmetics, or I don't know, whatever you need to pack with you. And you come to Europe and you need to drag this suitcases on cobblestones, right? This is horrible. I'm just telling you. Just pack half of what you think you need. And you always can, buy something in your country, in the country where you're going, most likely, right? Unless you're going somewhere in Antarctica, whatever. So trust me on this one, learn to pack light. Right now, I can go almost anywhere with just carry on. And sometimes we could take checked luggage, especially if you're going with my family. So it's 3 of us. Sometimes it's just easier for us to take one large bag instead of what we carry on, right? But that will make your life so much easier. So mistake number 9. So, sometimes it's cheaper to get overnight flight or flights that leaves kind of at weird times. But then you're at the destination and it's 9 a.m. there and the check-in to the hotel starts at 3 p.m. Sometimes even at 4 p.m. Depends on the country and hotel. And you have all of the time when you haven't probably slept on a plane well, so you need to relax, but you need to kind of do something about it. So one way about this would be either to consider this when you're booking a flight. Sometimes it's actually worth it to pay a little extra, but to get flight that is more convenient and you can go airport directly to the hotel and check right. Or another way would be, if it's possible, if it makes sense, to book one night before. So when you arrive earlier, they will still able to check you in because you prepared kind of the night before. I usually don't do this. I prefer to choose correct flight or kind of more convenient flight. And especially with age, as you get older, this has become more and more important. So definitely consider this when you book your next trip. Mistake number 8, do not research your destination before your trip. So when we went to Tokyo, we wanted to go to so many places like, Disneyland there. They also had this, I forgot the name, but very cool museum where they had this different light installations. It was so amazing, but I forgot the name. It's okay. They also have this Harry Potter restaurant there and the Kai Tower, right? Anyways. So we didn't book any tickets, 0, nothing. And basically to the museum with light installations, but luckily we were able to spot tickets to Harry Potter restaurant because I was checking constantly online if new spots open up. And that was kind of pretty stressful, right? So you're kind of here, you have all of these experiences around you, but you can go because there are no availability. Same thing happened to us in London. So even though I started preparing kind of in advance, I learned from my Tokyo trip and I was like, okay, this time I will book tickets to Harry Potter experience in Warner Brothers, right? Warner Brothers or Universal Studios in London. And I started preparing like a few weeks in advance. And I was checking tickets every day. 0. We were still not able to get those tickets. I even messaged them, I emailed them asking like, any tips? Can we do something about it? We're coming from very far. Maybe you have any suggestions? But they were like, no, if they're not available on the system on the site, then it's not available. I know, sorry, but it is. So guys, prepare well in advance. Make a list of things you want to visit and check if tickets are required and how in advance you can book them. And once you see them, definitely go ahead and it will save you from so much stress later on. So for mistake number 7, I want you to make some extra research about places you want to visit. Basically, read reviews if it's worth to go there. So let's say number 8, you create a list of items or places that you want to visit, right? You want to attend. And number 7, my suggestion to you would be to actually go and read reviews about the place. There's extra chatty crowd. I guess they want to talk French. Yeah, everywhere here. So yeah, basically what happened to me, we were in London and I was like so excited about Sky Garden, right? So you do have Sky Garden there, and every single videos that you find online about things to do in London will mention this place, right? They will say Sky Garden is must have. But then there are some other reviews that basically they, if you can get tickets, there is another option, but how you can get in is basically you book reservation with restaurants that's in the area, right? There were a couple of restaurants that you could choose from, but they all had different options. Some were just breakfast places, some were more like lunch, dinner. So you need to do your research. And once we decided that on this day we kind of able to go there, I started with those reservations because tickets, of course, were gone already, and I found one. It was like breakfast or like lunch place and the kind of Italian place. But when I got to this restaurant, it was actually pretty weird, I would say. The food wasn't great. It was really not. And I spent so much time waiting, and it was like, it's kind of ruined to some extent the whole experience of this, like waiting to the Sky Garden. We were not that excited anymore. We were like, why we even came here? So I would prefer to not go, maybe even, rather than kind of have experience like that. Because, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think better idea in this case would be to book a restaurant that is inside Sky Garden, because Italian was across, kind of in the same building, but not at the same door, so it's kind of across the hall or whatever. So if you decide to go this route, book reservation with the restaurant that's inside Sky Garden. It will be much better. Or try to snag your tickets online before you go actually. Mistake number 6. Thinking that if you don't do it in this week, that's fine. You will be able to come back and do it later. But let me tell you, in most places, you will probably not go back. So if you really wanted to go, let's say, in Tokyo, right? Try to do it while you're there. Do not think that's fine, I will come back, it will be fine. You never know what will happen next, right? So for example, when we were in Paris, we went to Notre Dame de Paris, we went to see it. And 2 years later, right, it got caught on fire. And I'm super glad we actually went there when we were visiting, because who knows what will happen next, right? Even like these historical places, something can happen to them. And I hope that it won't, of course, but I hope you get my point, basically. Mistake number 5 is about do not taking enough videos and photos of a car when you take rental. This is super, super important because especially in some countries, right, they will try to make everything they can to charge you more when you drop off the car at rental. And to protect yourself and to prevent situations like this, always when you book the car, go ahead and take photos and videos of the car to make sure that any dents, scratches, or whatever there is, it's all documented and highlighted to the worker as well. So there are some different ways, right, how cars can be picked up, but that would protect you on so many levels that you will thank me later. Mistake number 4, do not research in local scams. Anytime you go to a new destination, it's always a good idea to research what local scams are there. We all know about these things in Egypt, right, where they charge you, put camel down, or let you get out of the pyramids and things like that. But almost every country has something similar. So, for example, we were in Mexico a few years ago, and those like local taxi drivers that meet and greet you at the airport once you get out. And they were basically putting us prices like almost like $80 for taxi to the hotel. We're like, what kind of a lot? So because it was not our first time in Mexico, we just called Uber and paid like $10 or $12 for the ride. And if you didn't know about Uber, for example, you would just go this like a crazy $80 ride, which is like 20 minutes away from the airport. So definitely do your research and be prepared. Mistake number 3 is about not knowing how you should pay for services in the country where you're going. For example, what happened to us is that we booked a rental car. The idea was we arrived to Dortmund in Germany, and the idea was we take this rental car, we drive it to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Paris, and then come back to Dortmund like a week later or so. So we arrived to Dortmund, we go to pick up the car, and they were like, no, you can't take the car because you need to have credit card, and we only had debit card. So in our country, credit cards were not so popular, so we were not using them, and we were like, okay, but we didn't know about this at all. So they're like, no, we're sorry, you can't take rental car. So we had to change our plans like on a spot. It was pretty stressful thing, but I'm glad we made it. Basically, we ended up taking train and then bus, Paris, and back to Dortmund again bus. But that's something that we learned for sure, that we do need to have credit cards when we travel abroad. And okay, mistake number 2 is about exchanging money at local exchange points, right? So don't do it, basically. So there are a couple layers to it. First one is if you want to change your, for example, money, for example, dollars to local currency, you can be tempted to go to those currency exchange shops or stops, right? And usually they will offer you so bad rate that it will be they will rip you off on some money, right? And you can't do anything about it afterwards. So we had one situation in Rome where we went to change currency from dollars to euros. And what happened, basically, they gave us pretty bad rates. And once we started complaining about it, they were just like, nope, we can't do anything. It's written here. It's like real text on the wall, wherever it is. We tried to complain, but they were super strict. And they were like, oh, we will call police or whatever. We're like, basically, we just had to leave, and then later we learned this was common scam, basically, in Rome. So many reviews online saying that they had same situation. We just let it go at the time, but the best case to exchange your money would be to collect money from ATM. So you arrive to the airport, you go to the ATM, you put on your card, and once you want to retrieve some money from ATM, right, you'll always need to choose your local currency. So it will ask you, do you want to pick up money in your local currency or in country's currency? Always choose your local currency, because that way the money will be changed at market rate instead of, some rip-off rate that they have. It will save you so much money in the long run that it's absolutely worth it. Okay, and here's number 1. If you stayed up until here, congrats, the best one. And number 1 would be about traveling with friends. So we had one situation when we went on pretty spontaneous trip with some friends, and it involved basically flying in for Poland and then taking car, driving to Germany, and something went sideways. It happened really quickly, honestly, and we were not ready for that to happen, I would say. So it just turned out that they had really different interests and desires and expectations from the trip as well. Because we wanted to do one thing, they wanted to do completely different thing. They didn't want to, accommodate our desires. We tried to help them with theirs. But at the end, it just didn't work out. And after the trip, we never talked again to each other, never. And once we met each other somewhere in the city, but it was cold turkey, basically. And in this specific case, I'm glad that happened, because it turned out these people were completely different from us, and that's not how friendships work. But if you are about to go on a trip with your friends, definitely do some small tests before. Maybe some smaller trips, shorter ones, somewhere nearby, not far away, and see how things go. If you can find common sense with those people, then go for it. But there is always possibility that things can go sideways. So, travel is supposed to be fun, not stressful. And if I am able to save you from at least one of those mistakes, my job is that. But I bet you had some of those mistakes made yourself. So drop them in the comments. I'm really curious to hear about them, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.